Well, hello sports fans, I'm Harry, and I'd like to welcome you to Harry's Stuff and Such. And if you stick around, I'm going to be starting the assembly of my Prusa Mark III that I talked about in the unboxing video. And welcome back. This is the second part of my series on the Prusa Mark III 3D printer. Part 1 was a unboxing video that I put together, and this is the second part where I start the assembly. As you can see, I've already got some of the parts on the table before me. Before I get started with the assembly though, I wanted to make a few comments that I'm really impressed with the quality of the parts. I'm impressed with this assembly manual. Prusa Research did a great job, I think, putting this manual together. It's concise. It's very easy to go through. I've read through the manual before I started this. This is going to be very straightforward. Also, the other thing I'd like to make a comment about is the way they boxed and bagged everything, all the parts up. Each one of these bags has a label of everything that's in the bag, as well as the part of the instruction that this bag is related to. So these parts right here are related to part 2, the Y-axis assembly. Same thing with the printed parts, as well as everything else. So each bag contains the number of the step of which you're starting to do the assembly, and corresponds to what's in the manual. They even included a spare bag of parts in case you lose a couple of screws here and there. So I guess I'm about ready to get started putting this bad boy together. So let's get started on it. Okay. Section 2, Y-axis assembly. Okay, so to start with, let's see, we've got the main part of the frame and 2 long, 2 short extrusions and some M5 bolts. Let's see. You'll notice on the main part of the frame, you have the Prusa logo right here. That's the front. The 2 large ones, large extrusions, go in the front. And you'll see in the bottom you got 2 sets of 4 holes. These 4 are the outer, these 4 are the inner. So the long extrusions made up to the inner 4 holes. And again, the front, it has the logo, so that's where they made up. So, remember, you got the Prusa logo right up here on the front. That would be the top left. The 2 long extrusions. Now then for the 2 short extrusions. So, as you can see, the long extrusions are closer to each other, and the short extrusions are further. So the short extrusions go on the outside, long ones on the inside. And we're ready for the front and back of the frame. There's the okay. That also goes together with the 16s. Again, as I mentioned earlier, each bag has been labeled with the step. As you can see right there, this is step 2, y-axis. So that all the hardware you need is in this bag for step 2. It's really a nice way the way they've done this. Okay. Alright, so you got the front plate, the rear plate, and it takes 16 M5 by 16 screws. Okay, sorry about that. The camera battery ran out and I had to load a new battery. Where I was at the moment when the battery died was the y-axis front and rear holders. I just showed you the bag that contained those. You got the 4 holders, and you have to prep those holders with some square nuts. They have some holes already cut in the back side of these. When you turn them upside down, drop those 4 nuts, 2 nuts in each one, and then you have screws that go in attached to the rear or front and to the rear, and it holds them in place. So after you get those 2 in, or those 4, 2 in the front and 2 in the rear, it's time to do the Y-belt idler. You got to prep it, and so you've got this piece, printed piece. You got your the idler or the smooth pulley. You've got an 18 M3 by 18 and 2 M3 by 10, and you got 3 nylon end screws, and you place those in the location, 1 on each end, 1 here for the 18 millimeter, for the 18 millimeter bolt that will pass through to hold the idler. Idler goes in, bolt goes, screw goes in, and you can turn it. All right, good. All right, so now we've got the Y-belt idler prepared. So now it's time to put it on the frame. Okay, 1, 2 of the 10s. Longer extrusions right here. Idler goes inside here. Alright, so you need to make sure that you know there's a mark right here. I'm hoping that's in focus. So you know where the top is. As I said, I did not put that in the right spot. So now I've got the top side up. Always good to have the top side up. Again, I'm not tightening it super tight, just getting it in there. So, in fact, I might have this just a little bit, so let's keep it a little loose. Yeah, just a little loose. Alright. Okay, so that's the Y belt idler mount. Now it's time to go to the Y-axis motor mount. Y-axis motor mount. And you also need the Y-axis motor, which I just happen to have under the table. So we have the motor assemblies right here in this box. And here's the Y. It's conveniently marked. Right on the back, Y-axis. So you hit the motor. You'll need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you'll need 2 M3 nuts. 1, 2, 4 M3 by 10 millimeter screws, 1 Y motor holder, 1 Y motor, and 2 M3 nuts. Again, make sure you're using the right motor. It's hard not to use the right motor since it has Y-axis on the back. Also has Y on the end of the connector. Did a good job of braiding their connectors. Alright, so Y motor. Fits like so. So, 2 M3 nuts. The M3 nuts go here. Again, if you're having a hard time getting them, don't press them in too hard. Just use nut to pull them in place. That usually works. Well, usually works. Let me get it. Such a fumble finger person. There. Yeah, that's got it in there good. Pull the other one in tight. There we go. Alright. Got those inside good and tight. Alright, so now we're ready to put the motor mount to the motor. You gotta make sure you get the orientation right. So here's the leads coming out. So we'll have that facing toward you. And then in place the mount such that, as you can see, you've got a long and a short side. Make sure that the long is on the same side as the lead is. So like so. Okay. Alright, now the long side is going to go down. That's the one reason you want to make sure that you have this lead in the right spot, so that this back will mount up against here, because if you mount it incorrectly, you won't be able to fit that. Just enough to get it started. And I'm making sure that it's in the right holes. Everything seems to be good. All right. Okay, now we're on to the carriage. There's the Y carriage. So, for this part, you'll need your Y carriage. You need the Y belt holder. That's the printed part you need. You'll need the 3 linear bearings. And you've got 3 U-bolts here, as well as 2 M3 by 10s. You'll need 6 of the nylons, 2, 4, 5. I'll have to find my spare. Hang on while I go get my spare. Two, 4, 6 of the nylons. Let's see. All right. Okay, sorry guys. That was a major fail on my part. The battery on the camera died again. I wasn't paying attention. Before it died, I was starting on the Y carriage assembly, getting the bearings. You had 3 bearings, 2 on this side and 1 in the back. You notice I'm not sure you can tell, but there's a cutout for each one of the bearings. Use and you just place the bearing over that cutout. You got 3 U-bolts that you pass through that hold the bearings to the Y carriage plate. And then you've got nylon nuts. So you got 2 for each bearing. You hand tighten those nuts just until those nuts get to the surface, just touching the surface of the carriage plate. And once they're secure, then you tighten them with the pliers, but you only tighten them 90 degrees. So you grab the pliers, rotate it 90 degrees, grab, rotate 90, on all 4 of them, or 6 of them rather, and that gets them secure. And then you slide the as it's turned over on its back, you slide the smooth rods through the bearings. Now, if the bearings are misaligned, they're not going to go through smoothly. So you want to make sure that bearings are aligned and there's no binding of this Y rod when you're passing it through. Once you've got all that, then you turn back on with right side up, so the Y rods are on the bottom, and then you place them in the Y rod holders. Should be nice and smooth. And then you've got each of the Y rod holder parts has slots for zip ties to slide through. And you slide a zip tie through each one, pull it tight, and then snip off the excess. And you'll notice that I've got the head of the zip tie on the inside on all 4 of them. Now, once that's nice and smooth, slide your carriage to the front and then tighten the front bolts. That's why you don't want those tight until you get ready to do this part. Now, if I can find my Allen wrench in my hurry to try to get back to camera back, I may have placed it somewhere else. Yeah, because that's too big. So hold on while I find the Allen wrench. There it is on the floor. Got so frustrated with my camera. So this is a major fail on my part, and I apologize. So you make sure that with the Y carriage all the way forward, you make sure that the Y rod holder bolts are nice and tight. Okay, so now that you've got those secured, you slide the Y carriage all the way back to the rear, and then you tighten the Y rod holders in the rear. It's nice and smooth. I don't feel any binding. Pretty much the same pressure all along the bearing or rod. So bearing pressure seems quite consistent and even. Okay. All right. So now we're ready to start step 31 of part 2 Y-axis assembly, and that is the assembling the Y motor pulley. So here's your pulley. Let's see, so you've got 2 set screws. Make sure that you've got one that's right on the flat part. So rotate it. So it's good to take the Y rod motor axis or spindle, turn it with the flat side up so that you can place one of the set screws on top of it. And that way you can leave the other one on the inside so you can get to it. So be sure that the pulley is not pressing all the way against the motor. There should be a small gap there. Yeah, so you want to make sure that it's not touching the motor. Whoops. Make sure I get this on here right. So, again, you don't really tighten it completely, just enough to make sure that it's not going to slide off. Just get them down, and you'll worry about getting it tight later anyways. I want to make sure I didn't over tighten it. Yeah, there we go. Just touching. Yep. Okay. Good. So now you want to turn the frame onto its right side. So we need access to the belt holder. So okay. There's the belt. Don't trim it. So you're going to need access to the belt holder. So since the belt holder teeth are facing this way, that's the other thing I didn't point out, is that the slots for the belt are facing the same side with the two pulleys on the carriage. So and I'm not sure you can see that, but that's how I have it. Alright, so find the belt. We found it. Insert one end into the holder and ensure you're using the upper slot. So start with the upper slot, the one closest to the carriage, which would be this one. So the belt is in all the way. Yep, I don't see how it can go any further. Just to be sure, I'll take this slotted screwdriver and just press a little bit. So that seems to be good. Now I want to slide it so that goes over the front idler. And there we go. So insert the belt through the idler as shown in picture. Guide the belt to the Y-axis motor. Ensure falling. Don't use the second slot. Don't use the second slot in the holder. Guide the belt along the aluminum Z-frame, not below. Guide the belt above the rear plate, not below. And back around the idler on the motor. Now that's right. Okay. Okay, so now when you want to take the end of the belt, pull the belt with a reasonable force and insert it into the holder. Note that you don't have to use the whole length of the slot. Okay, so that's the bottom part of the slot. So we kind of give it a nice little pull. Getting these tight has always been my Achilles tendon, or heel, sorry. I keep saying tendon because I ruptured mine in a marathon. Okay, I could get that tighter. So make sure it's not rubbing anywhere. Make sure it seems even. There we go. Again, I'm making sure that I'm not 100%. Yeah, that looks good all the way across. Feels fairly tight. And again, like I said, I want to make sure that the eyelers line up okay. They seem to. Make sure to, I have to keep looking up to make sure the camera's still recording. I'm worried that the battery, that seems to be good. Now that's fairly tight. Feels tight. Tension feels good. Not too tight. Not too loose. Just right. Kind of like Goldilocks said. Just right. Okay. So the final tension will be adjusted later. And that feels fairly good. All right, step 38, aligning the Y-axis belt. Make sure the pulley is in place and the axis on the printer. Let's see, both top and bottom part of the belt should be parallel. And before I do anything else, I'm going to loosen these set screws just a hair. And then I'll make sure. So to adjust the belt tension, release screws on the pulley, slightly move it and slightly move it until you reach the belt position. In case you can't make the belt parallel, check the belt's properly inserted in the Y holder. And now tighten both screws on the pulley once you feel the belt is in good shape. Alright. As far as I can tell, the belt looks nice and parallel on the top and the bottom. I don't feel any excessive binding. I can move it nice and easily. Again, like I said, the belt feels good. From what I can tell, I'm not feeling any misalignment. So now that I feel good about it, you can tighten the pulley screws. And again, like I said, they seem to be pretty darn aligned. Alright. Now since this front screw wasn't tightened completely, now when you tighten it down, it'll cinch up the belt. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh yeah, that's good and tight. Belt is good and tight. Feels consistent. Alright, using the finger on your left hand, push the belt down. Yep, some force is needed. But don't try to overstretch the belt as you might damage the printer. Yep. That's good. So test that the belt is properly stretched. Use the pliers to hold the Y motor shaft. Move the carriage towards the Y motor. Don't use excess force. If the belt is stretched properly, you should feel a resistance and the Y carriage won't move. Alright. So basically, grab the shaft with the pliers, push, and I got, boy, yeah, nothing. Yep, it don't move, so that's good and tight. That was step 37. Now we're at 38, which says that the Y-axis is finished. Great job. Open the bag of gummy bears and treat yourself to a few. And then you can check the final look and compare it to the photograph or the picture that is in the manual. And this looks exactly like the manual. So I think I successfully completed the Y-axis. And that means I have finished this part of the video. It was a little sketchy in places, and I apologize for that. Okay, so that finishes the part 2. I got the Y-axis assembly completed. So as you can see, the printer is starting to look like a 3D printer, and the Y-axis moves quite well. Looks good. Looking forward to getting the rest of this done. And I'd like to apologize for some of the camera failures I had filming the assembly of the Y-axis. So there you have it. Next part 3, I'll get the X-axis assembly completed. So until then, this is Harry from Harry's Stuff and Such. And if you like this video, give me the thumbs up. And if you don't, give me a thumbs down. I would understand, especially since I had some of the camera failures here, that this didn't turn out quite as well as I had hoped it would. But regardless, go ahead and give me either your thumbs up or your thumbs down. And if you got a couple of comments, go ahead and leave a comment, even if it's no more than something like, hey, stop saying so much. That's good. I can appreciate that. And also, how about pressing that old subscribe button? I really would like that. Just to make sure that y'all are out there watching. And if you, again, like I said, if you have any comments or suggestions that would help improve things, go ahead and leave those. And until part 3 comes along, I'll catch you guys on the backside. Take care now.